Maid accidentally saw the Mafia boss topless, but his reaction was nothing she expected. Before we begin, family, if dark romance, danger, and stories that crawl under your skin are your weakness, hit like, subscribe, share this with someone who loves suspense, and drop a comment right now because this channel is our home and you belong here. And I promise you, what starts as fear ends in something unforgettable. Imagine a place where silence is enforced, where marble floors echo like warnings, where chandeliers don't glow for beauty but for power, where armed men stand like statues and fear breathes through the walls before a single word is spoken. This is the Greco estate, a fortress dressed as luxury, a kingdom ruled by one man whose name alone ends conversations, Antonio Greco, a boss so cold that mercy is considered a myth. A man no one looks at twice if they want to live, and tonight, in this house where mistakes are paid for in blood, one small accident will shatter every rule, because one maid will step where she was never meant to go, and once she does, nothing, no power, no fear, no empire, will ever be the same. Because in this house the smallest misstep can erase a life. And the one who knows this better than anyone is Maria Lombardi, a girl who learned early that invisibility is survival. She moves through the Greco estate like a shadow, eyes lowered, footsteps silent, breath controlled, never curious, never noticed, never important, because importance gets you killed here. She has no power, no protection, no name that matters. Only rules memorized like prayers and instincts sharpened by fear. She doesn't dream, she doesn't plan, she survives. Every tray she carries is steady not because she isn't tired, but because shaking would be dangerous. Every word she swallows because speaking could cost her everything. And what she fears most isn't pain or death, but losing the only fragile thing she has left, her job, her anonymity, the thin thread keeping her alive in a world that devours the weak. She sends money home. She counts every night she survives as a victory, and she tells herself again and again that as long as she follows the rules, as long as she never looks up, never asks questions, never crosses forbidden halls, she will remain unseen, untouched, safe, because Maria Lombardi is not meant to matter in this world, and that is exactly what keeps her alive. And in a place like this the rules exist for only one reason. Because of the man who enforces them without ever needing to raise his voice. A man most of the staff have never spoken to and pray they never will. A name passed in whispers and half-finished sentences. Antonio Greco, the kind of man whose reputation walks ahead of him so far that his shadow arrives before his footsteps. They say he doesn't forgive. They say he doesn't forget. They say once he decides you're a problem, your life simply stops. No warnings, no explanations, no second chances. Men disappear and the estate grows quieter. Deals are sealed with silence. Enemies vanish without headlines. And even the guards fear being noticed by him because attention from Antonio Greco is more dangerous than punishment itself. No one knows what he looks like when he's alone. No one knows what he feels, because to the world he isn't a man. He's a consequence, a final decision, the cold hand at the end of every mistake, and in this house every locked door, every loaded gun, every rule Maria lives by exists because Antonio Greco does. And that is why the moment it happens feels unreal, because accidents aren't supposed to exist here, not in the Greco estate, not under Antonio Greco's rule. Yet late into the night when the halls are quieter and Maria is running on instinct instead of rest, a single mistake slips through her careful control. A tray unbalances, glass shatters too loudly, panic tightens her chest, footsteps echo somewhere close. And without thinking she reaches for the nearest door, just to hide the sound, just to fix the problem, just to survive. But the door opens into the one place she was warned never to enter, the West Wing. And before she can turn back she sees him, not surrounded by power, not protected by guards, not dressed in authority, but alone, wounded, blood staining his skin, pain carved into his expression, Antonio Greco exposed in a way no one has ever lived long enough to witness. And time freezes as their eyes meet, because this isn't just a broken rule, it's a point of no return. She has seen the myth bleed, she has seen the monster become human, and in that silent second both of them understand the same truth. Her life as she knew it is over, and his invincibility is gone forever. And the silence doesn't last, because the estate reacts like a living thing. Boots thunder down the corridor, doors burst open, armed guards flood the room with weapons raised and fingers already tight on triggers, eyes snapping from the blood on their boss to the trembling Maid who has seen what no one is allowed to see. And in that instant Maria understands exactly how people disappear here. Her body gives out. She drops to her knees. Breath hitching, hands shaking, not screaming, not running, just begging in the smallest voice she can manage. Because everyone knows what comes next. Everyone feels it hovering in the air. The order, the shot, the body removed before sunrise, and the audience expects it too. Expects the brutality, the execution that keeps legends intact. But then Antonio Greco lifts his hand, slow, deliberate, absolute, the room freezing around the gesture, his face unreadable. His voice calm enough to be terrifying as he says, "Leave us." No anger, no explanation, just command, and the guards hesitate only a fraction of a second before backing away. Doors closing, guns lowering, silence crashing down heavier than gunfire ever could. And Maria realizes this is worse, because she is still alive, still seen, still standing in the same room as the most dangerous man in the world, alone with the secret that should have killed her. And whatever mercy this is feels far more frightening than death ever would. And from that night forward nothing returns to normal, because mercy does not mean freedom in the Greco estate. It means containment. Maria is not dismissed, not forgiven, not allowed to disappear back into the shadows she came from. Instead she is kept close, reassigned without explanation, watched without rest, every step measured, every breath observed, eyes following her through corridors she once passed unnoticed, doors now opening only when permitted, silence now heavy with meaning, and she waits for the end that never quite comes, while Antonio Greco wrestles with something he has never allowed himself to feel, disgust at his own hesitation, anger at the loss of control, the knowledge that he should have ended it and didn't, that her quiet obedience haunts him more than betrayal ever could, because she saw him weak and chose silence, and Maria endures it all without protest. She doesn't cry, she doesn't accuse, she doesn't ask why she still lives, she does her work with steady hands and lowered eyes, holding on to the same fragile dignity that kept her alive before, surviving not through rebellion but restraint, while two lives move closer not by choice but by gravity, bound together by fear, by silence, by a mercy that feels more like a cage than salvation. And the days that follow become a pattern of quiet tension, the same rooms, the same measured steps, the same presence pressing down on every moment. Antonio speaks little, sometimes not at all, a glance replacing orders, a pause replacing threats, and Maria learns to read the silence the way others read words. She feels the tests even when none are spoken, doors left open just long enough, conversations held within reach, information placed where it can be seen but never explained, and every time she chooses the same thing without knowing she's choosing it. She says nothing, takes nothing, betrays no one, fear guiding her more faithfully than courage ever could. While Antonio watches from a distance, he pretends his control, studying the way she lowers her eyes but never her head, the way her hands shake yet never steal, the way she obeys without becoming small, and with every quiet encounter the imbalance remains absolute. His power unquestioned, her survival uncertain, but the silence between them grows thick with meaning. doing far more than words ever could. And somewhere inside that silence, observation turns into awareness. Maria begins to notice the things no one talks about. The scars that disappear beneath tailored clothing. The way Antonio never truly rests. The nights his lights stay on until dawn. The controlled stillness of a man who trusts nothing and no one. While Antonio notices things about her that disturb him more than defiance ever could. The way she flinches but never lies. The way exhaustion never steals her dignity. The way loneliness sits on her like a second uniform. And nothing is said, nothing is named, because this is not romance, and it cannot be. It is simply two people seeing too much of each other in a world built on blindness, until the illusion of safety finally cracks, because Maria overhears it by accident just like before, a quiet conversation, a plan spoken as routine, her name reduced to a loose end. Confirmation that once a current threat passes, she will be removed, erased as efficiently as any enemy. And in that moment hope dies without drama, without tears, without screams, because she understands now that mercy was never freedom, it was a delay, and she walks away carrying the knowledge that her life has an expiration date, and nothing she has done will change it. And instead of running or begging like she once did, Maria chooses stillness. She waits until the moment feels inevitable, and then she stands before him with a calm that surprises even herself. Her voice steady not because she is brave, but because fear has finished its work on her. And she tells him she knows, not accusing, not pleading, simply stating the truth as if it no longer belongs to her. That she understands what she saw that night, and what he is, and what comes next, that if her life is meant to end, it should end now, clean and honest. And in that quiet acceptance something fractures inside Antonio Greco. Because this is the first thing he cannot control, not with money, not with threats, not with power. And for the first time the fear is his, not of exposure or weakness, but of loss, of watching the one person who saw him bleed walk willingly into death. And the realization hits him harder than any gunshot ever could, because the moment he imagines her absence he understands that something human has already been taken from him, and he doesn't know how to survive it. And in that suspended moment Antonio Greco makes a decision he never planned to face, not spoken aloud, not explained, but carved into action, because power has always been easy and humanity has always been optional until now. And he chooses without ceremony, issuing orders that reverse fates and cancel deaths, moving pieces on the board so quietly that no one understands what has changed except him. But the world does not pause for private decisions. Violence surges from the cracks he has neglected. A betrayal blooms inside his own walls. Rival forces circle sensing weakness, and suddenly Maria is no longer just a loose end but a liability. A name whispered with intent, a pressure point meant to break him, and every threat makes the truth clearer, that whatever this is between them has turned deadly, because loving her does not make him stronger, it makes him vulnerable. And in a world built on fear, vulnerability is an invitation to war. And the war he tried to delay finally finds them. Gunfire tearing through the night, alarms screaming through the estate, shadows running where silence once ruled, and in the chaos everything fractures at once. Maria is pulled away, hidden, rushed through corridors that smell of smoke and blood while Antonio stands between her and the storm like a wall that can bleed. Shots echo, orders break, time collapses into noise, and then it happens. A moment so sudden it steals the air from her lungs. Antonio falls out of sight, swallowed by violence, and Maria is left staring at the space where he stood, convinced with terrifying certainty that he is gone, that the man who chose her over safety has paid for it with his life. And something inside her finally breaks, fear forgotten, rules erased, tears spilling freely over a loss she never allowed herself to name, while elsewhere Antonio fights his way back from the edge, wounded but alive. and when he sees her grief from a distance he understands without words what he has become to her, because in that raw, unguarded reaction the truth is exposed completely, not spoken, not promised, but undeniable, and for the first time the most dangerous man alive knows exactly what it would mean to lose her. And it is in that understanding that Antonio Greco makes the cruelest decision of all, the one that no one will ever praise and no empire will ever record, because love in his world cannot be protected by bullets or walls, it can only be buried, and so he chooses silence over closeness, distance over desire, ordering her disappearance not as an execution, but as a vanishing, a new name, a new life, a future that will never include him, and Maria understands without protest because she has always known how survival works. There are no goodbyes, no promises, no final touch, only absence where something fragile once lived, and inside them both the truth settles heavy and permanent, that what they felt was real, that it mattered, and that it must never be seen again, because in this world love does not win, it endures quietly or it dies loudly, and this is the only way either of them survives. And time passes until the Greco estate is quiet again, the gates sealed, the guards standing exactly where they always did, the marble halls polished back into perfection, power restored to its rigid shape, and Antonio Greco stands alone in the same space where everything began, the room unchanged except for what it took from him, the silence heavier now because it remembers, because the walls know what mercy once looked like and what it cost, and though the empire still breathes under his command, it is hollow in ways no one else can see, because the one person who ever looked at him without fear is gone, reduced to memory, to absence, to a life lived somewhere he will never touch. And as he turns away, the fortress remains intimidating, untouchable, feared, exactly as it was in the beginning. Except now the legend knows the truth, that power can rule the world and still lose the one thing it can never replace. And that some accidents do not destroy empires, they simply leave them standing forever changed. Family, if you stayed until this moment, I need you to know something. You are truly appreciated more than words can explain. This channel exists because of you, and every like you leave, every comment you write, every time you share these stories, you help keep this family alive. You are not just watching, you belong here. And if this story touched you even a little, please tap the like button right now. Subscribe so you never miss the next chapter. And share this with someone who loves dark romance and emotional stories like this. It truly helps more than you know. Now tell me in the comments, did Antonio make the right choice, or should he have fought the world for her? Would you have walked away like Maria or stayed and risked everything? And which moment broke your heart the most? The accident, the silence, or the ending? I read every single comment, and I want to hear your thoughts because this isn't just my channel, it's ours. And no matter where you're watching from, remember this: you are seen, you are valued, and you are always welcome back here.